Welcome into America's Retirement Headquarters, home of the Retirement Guys Formula and America's Medicare Associates. Securities offered through Peak Brokerage Services, LLC. Advisory services offered through the Retirement Guys Formula, registered investment advisor. America's Retirement Headquarters, America's Medicare Associates, and the Retirement Guys Formula are separate and independent entities from Peak Brokerage Services, LLC. Thanks so much for joining us today here on America's Retirement Headquarters, home of the Retirement Guys Formula and America's Medicare Associates with Scott Kirshner and Dave Ross. 419-794-3030 is the phone number. It's how you reach out to the team at America's Retirement Headquarters. 419-794-3030. You can also go online, arhq.com. My name is Chris Vaughn. Today on the show, will the Fed start cutting interest rates soon? We'll discuss whether retiring in your early 60s is realistic and how will the Inflation Reduction Act impact Medicare? All this and more. But before we get started, let me check in with the guys. Scott, Dave, glad to be with you. How are you, sir?
Oh, we're doing well, Chris. I tell you what, I just love this time of the year. I love summer. I just love this time of year. It's a lot of fun. You know, we're spending a lot of time in some outdoor events over the last couple of 2 or 3 weekends, which is a lot of fun. Getting some golf in. The weather's been pretty hot, but it still beats that white snowy stuff that falls, right? Dave, I want to thank you for joining me today on the show. And how about you? You doing well? Everything going well?
Yeah, I've been enjoying golf, but it's not necessarily been good golf. So it's hit or miss, just like anything else in life. So we'll just keep trying to get better, I guess.
Well, you know what they say, a bad day at golf beats a good day at work any day. And that's the motto I live on.
Yeah, we hope that those out there, getting ready to retire, they get to enjoy those good days or those bad days of golf, or perhaps better than that, or whatever it is they want to achieve in retirement. But it's all about having that plan to make it into a reality. So when you're ready to have that conversation, and there's no time like the present, again, that number 419-794-3030. So let's start by talking about interest rates in the Fed. Predictions about when the Fed is actually going to cut interest rates. They've been all over the board this year. There was estimated to have as many as 6 at the start of the year, if not more. Now they're saying a lot of the people are betting it's going to happen in September. Here's Senior Wealth Advisor Holly Neiman-Croft on CNBC recently.
Now, the market is not the best predictor of interest rate cuts. You'll remember in January, they were predicting 7 or 8 cuts. Last month, they were predicting 0 cuts. Today, they're expecting about 2 or 3 rate cuts this year, starting in September. So we're expecting a cut, and that's good for the market.
So here we are in August and, September next month. I think we all know that with calendars. Is this the last call to lock in attractive interest rates on fixed income products?
Well, that's a great question. We've had this on the show several times, and it's like the interest rates, are they going to go up? Are they going to go up? And there were all kinds of predictions on that, and we've talked about this. Dave, you and I have talked about this a lot. And one of the things we've been saying now for I'd say at least all of this year and a good part of last year was, invest and get some lock in on those high interest rates right now, because they're as good as they've been in many, many years. The HSA accounts that I deal with people, with their investments for their house savings accounts, they're paying high rates. All of these accounts are paying really high rates. So, the question is now the last time to lock in a good interest rate? What's your take on this? I know we were talking before the show a little bit about that, and you had some pretty good information about it.
We're in a presidential election year. The Federal Reserve is supposed to be a nonpartisan, non-political entity. So I would imagine if an interest cut's going to come in September, there are going to be some people that like to wear red that are going to have issues with it, because they'll think that the Democrats are trying to buy votes by seeing interest rates cut. But let's take, for example, if it does happen in September, it's not like the minute they cut the rates that the market's going to follow. So it could very well be, if they do a cut in September, a cut in November, let's say they do 2, consumers may not see any result of that in their ability to borrow at a lower rate or invest at a lower rate, maybe until January of 25. So it's not an immediate impact, But I personally feel that they're going to delay it till after the election, so no one can say that that was a manipulator in terms of trying to win over undecided voters.
You think two? September, November possibly might be what they're looking at?
Could be November, December.
Yeah.
You know, it's just going to be interesting to see how it plays and how they're going to try and sell it. But the Fed really tries to be non-political.
Sure. Sure. So I guess the answer is now a good time. Is now a good time to lock in? Yeah, absolutely. You know, you can lock in right now. Is it the last good time to lock in? Probably not. Maybe don't do any rash lock-ins at this point, but you definitely see some rate cuts coming at some point. They're going to have some rate cuts to keep the economy rolling, and hopefully they can lower the inflation and get some things back in order.
I mean, it's just people, being affected by obviously higher inflation, things costing more these days. That is why the interest rates have been as high as they have been up until this point, as they've tried to get inflation under wraps. The Fed inflation, which, by the way, in 2021 they were calling transitory. But I digress. Here we are now. It looks like they've finally got a grasp on it, and they're going towards that soft landing they've been aiming for. So interest rates down the line in the future seem likely. And the truth of it is that you want to make sure that, when it comes to your retirement plan, you want it to be as apolitical as possible. That it's easier said than done, but you want to know. Sure. Sometimes, DC is going to be red, sometimes it's going to be blue. You don't want to have a plan that is dictated by that every couple of years. You want something that's going to withstand whatever may come down the line, but being aware and making the changes whenever possible. I know that's what you guys do at America's Retirement Headquarters, is creating that, that agnostic, apolitical plan for people, to their comfort level, of course. But it all gets started by reaching out and scheduling a time to speak with them, 419-794-3030, or going online to the website, and that is arhq.com. Many believe financial advisors only manage portfolios and plan for retirement for individuals and families, but those who own and operate small businesses tend to have their own set of needs, from taxes to insurance. So let's talk, as it pertains to small business owners, how can a financial advisor help them out?
Well, there's lots of ways that a financial advisor can help them out. One of the things that I've done in the past is I've helped business partners with buy-sell agreements with insurance, right? So we always want to look at helping out individuals with life insurance to protect, their assets, protect their families. You have a young family with some children, they upgrade their house. We always want to make sure that we put a good plan in place for life insurance to protect their investments and the family. But with small businesses, I mean, there's a desperate need for all of that as well. If you have a business partner, one thing you're going to need is a buy-sell agreement that we can put in place for you. And that's basically a life insurance policy that you would take out on each other. And if there's multiple, you would have life insurance naming each of the other partners as beneficiaries. And then upon the untimely passing of one of the business partners, the buyout is funded from the life insurance. So that's, because a lot of people don't necessarily want to have that spouse come into the business. I mean, she may have or he, I shouldn't pigeonhole a she, but they may have no knowledge whatsoever of the business. And you may not want them involved in that, so you buy their portion of it out. So life insurance is definitely one of the things that we can help out with. The other thing with life insurance would be key man insurance. If you have that one person that is very an integral part of the company, maybe it's that top leading salesman or the CFO or somebody that really is important to the business, and if something happens, they pass away, you need to replace them. One of the ways you can entice someone else to come in is to fund a key man, life insurance policy and offer bonuses or that higher first-year salary or things like that. So those are a couple of things that we can help out with. But aside from that, there's the 401ks and the investments, and that's one of the things that you really are up on, Dave, and you take care of for clients.
Well, 401ks are, for many people, that's their one area where they're actively contributing and saving for their retirement. So when you take a look at a 401k for a person who's worked for 30 plus years, and then you look at their Social Security situation, the idea is to put together a plan that allows them to live the life they want post-retirement, but also doing it in a way where it can change with times. People get sick. People live well into their 90s now. So when they retire at 65 or even earlier, how do they know if their money's going to last, or if any unexpected expenses come up? How are they going to handle that? And that's where we come in here at America's Retirement Headquarters. We do an income analysis. We implement this independent income system, and we give people a number that they can rely upon, but we also set up plans that have contingencies in the case that things change, and they're going to change, as we all know. Life doesn't always go according to a preset routine, but when it comes to retirement planning, we take all of your assets and put them into a system that allows us to let you know what you can count on in retirement. And coming back to this small employer, small employers, business owners, they can't start planning soon enough.
Right.
Because they've got a lot of moving parts. I'm actually working with a situation right now where mom and dad are selling a couple businesses to their son, and they're telling me what their exit is going to look like and what they're hoping for, and I'm putting together a comprehensive plan to give them what they want.
Yeah, and the other areas where we really help out with the small businesses is, if you're a small startup business, right, and even like the case that you were just talking about, the example with, someone selling off, they have a good idea when and how they're going to turn profits. But if you're a startup business, once you start turning a profit, you need to know, what exactly do I do with this profit that I'm having, right? So what we can do is we can help you establish some investments that are going to help the profits that you continue to turn grow. And, that's going to help you in the long run managing your business expenses and things of that nature to keep you in business and to keep you profitable and to keep you moving forward. One of the things I know, I always listen to Nolan when he's doing presentations with people and that, and he talks about some of the investments that he invests in, the companies he invests in. And the one thing that rings loud and clear with me is, he said, one of the things they do is they look at the companies that are very debt-free and cash-rich. So when the markets are really, really struggling, like when COVID came along, there was a lot of businesses that basically went belly up because they were so indebted to, up to their eyeballs. And the companies that withstood the low market and the struggling times were the companies that had a lot of cash. So if you're a young business, a new business starting out, we can help with that. Nolan and Dave and the team can really help you out, establish some accounts, some investable accounts that will help you withstand those slow months and really profit in those busy times.
Retirement planning can, we don't want to make it sound like it is simple, for an individual. I think people, longtime listeners of the show, will understand there is a lot of nuance in there. When it comes to small business owners, having to manage the retirement planning for, their employees, and then what happens when you try to, sell the business, or what do you want to do after you retire yourself? It could be even more complicated. All the more reason to have professionals, have a team like America's Retirement Headquarters on your side, because again, with their combined 75 plus years of experience at this point, they've seen a lot of different variables out there and will be able to help you think of things that you probably hadn't thought of prior to entering into retirement, whatever that may look like for you, but you definitely want to make sure you do. It all begins by reaching out to them and scheduling a time to speak with them. ARHQ.com is the website, or you can give a call, 419-794-3030. Earlier, we were speaking of inflation and how, the Fed and Washington has been trying to get that under wraps. There has been buzz going around about the Inflation Reduction Act and its actual impact on Medicare. A lot of people are uncertain if it's a good thing or if it's a bad thing necessarily as far as that goes. So let's get a little clarification here. What is the answer?
It really depends. There is a lot of buzz going on around about this, and I've been asked that very question several times. In fact, I just had an appointment last week, and I was talking a little bit about what to be prepared for in 2025, and they said, well, is that a good thing or a bad thing? So I kind of went through what I've been going through with everybody, and I'm going to take a few minutes to go through that now. A lot of people, if you haven't heard, the Inflation Reduction Act is directly impacting the Part D of prescription drug coverage for 2025. And that's where a lot of people are asking, well, is it a good thing or a bad thing? And it depends on where you're at with your prescription drugs, whether it'll determine if it's a good thing or bad thing. So here's a little bit of information on it. So it is supposed to improve the Part D prescription drug coverage. So insulin is already at a cap of $35 per covered prescription per month. But what is supposed to also happen as a result of the act is they are going to cap, there's going to be a yearly cap in 2025 of $2,000, okay? Now, what does that mean? Right now, we have what's called the gap or donut hole, and then we have catastrophic. Both of those go away, and you'll have a maximum cap of $2,000 for those people on higher dollar prescription drug coverages in 2025. The other thing that they're doing is they're expanding the low-income subsidy program. So basically, it's called LIS, and it's for those people that qualify for extra help under Part D prescription drugs. They're bumping that up to 150% of the federal poverty level. So those are some of the highlights of it. The other thing that they're doing is they are allowing Medicare to negotiate directly with the drug manufacturers to lower the price of some of these high dollar single source brand name medications under the Part B and the Part D prescription drugs. So that's another thing that's really going to be directly impacted. And there's a new law that requires drug companies that raise their prices faster than the rate of inflation, they're going to pay a rebate back to Medicare. So it's yet to be seen how that's going to play out. But the one thing that I will tell all of you listeners out there, my events that I'm going to be putting in place for AEP, and I've got some events coming up here in September as well. We're going to talk in more detail about how the act is going to impact people in Medicare. But, I want to take a second and kind of go through and answer the question, because everything I just mentioned really didn't answer the question. What I'm hearing, and when I say what I'm hearing, it's not the gossip. I'm hearing this from companies. I'm hearing this from people that have done a lot of investigating and figuring some of this stuff out already. I'll ask a simple question. How many people think that the pharmaceutical companies are going to lose money? Well, that's not going to happen, right? And how many people think that the insurance companies are going to lose money? That's not going to happen either. So the big question is, where's the money going to come from to pay for and support this $2,000 cap? Because there are drugs out there that monthly are costing anywhere from $500 to $1,100, $1,200 a month for some of these common medications that a lot of people are taking. So here's the grumblings that I'm hearing, and none of this, I want to preface this, none of this is in stone, none of this is factual at this point, but it's what I'm hearing from company people and other people in the business. So if you're on a Medicare supplemental plan or a standalone prescription drug plan, both of those products come with a monthly premium. The intentions and expectations are that those monthly premiums are going to go up. I've already seen some reports on some of these prescription drug plans increasing their monthly premiums for their prescription drug plans. So if any of you listening are on a prescription drug plan, it's a PDP plan, and a Medicare supplement or a Medigap plan, you want to learn more about how you could be impacted, reach out. America's Medicare Associates.com is my website, or arhq.com. You can reach us there. You can sign up for some of our events that we have going on, or you can contact me directly. But so anticipate some premium increases on those products. I know that's going to happen because I'm seeing what's being presented to me for 2025. Okay, so that's well and good. What if I'm not on a Medigap or a PDB plan and I'm on an Advantage plan? Well, an Advantage plan has no premium. So how are you going to increase your premiums, right? I mean, there's no premium, so what's going to happen with that? Well, here's what you could possibly anticipate. All of these companies are required by CMS, the Centers for Medicaid and Medicare Services, to actually have a formulary drug list. This is a list that is put forth by CMS and the companies, and you have to cover a certain number of drugs on that formulary list. Well, if you're now being told you have to pay more than what the monthly cost is. Now, when I say you, I'm meaning the insurance companies. Well, what might they do? They may take some of these medications off of their formulary list. So you may not even, you may be put in a situation where you may not even be able to get that drug on the current plan that you're on. You may have to switch companies to get the medications that you need. So there's a lot of crazy things proposed for 2025. I'm starting to get the this month, August is when we get the first looks. All of us advisors get to look at these plans prior to the general population out there. And then we go through and set up our review appointments. So we're starting to get these appointments scheduled. And if any of you out there are looking to get more information about this, sign up for one of our events, and I'd be happy to help each and every one of you. And that's what I know at this point. So it's a hard question to answer, but I will definitely be impacted.
There's a lot of those events coming up with a better understanding of things as you get closer and closer to the annual election period in September. Throughout the area, you can find one that is convenient for you. They'd love to have you out there. Scott and the team at America's Medicare Associates. Just go to arhq.com and click on the events tab for more info. The government has thrown different dates at us on when the Social Security Trust Fund is going to run dry. We've heard 2033, 2034, 2035. What is the truth? What is the actual number here? Here's David Dooley, the co-founder of the Social Security Risk Score.
This last report that came out in April, the number the media talked about was, hey, we have until 2035 for the solvency. And so our job is to sort of decipher what is true, what is fiction, what are scare tactics, what's political, et cetera. And we were sort of shocked when we heard 2035. We're like, that doesn't make sense based on the numbers we know. And so as we dove into the report, we did find that, in fact, the trust fund regarding specifically Social Security retirement benefits still is projected to deplete in 2033, at which time then there might only be enough money to pay 75-80% of your monthly benefits.
Whether it's 2033 or 2035, it's around the corner. So what could people do now to prepare their retirement plans for a possible 25% reduction in benefits?
I always I have strong opinions, and that gets me in trouble a lot, especially at home, right? Me personally, nothing to back this up, but I don't see how. I don't see how when our government can bail out all of these auto manufacturers back several years ago, we can throw billions and billions of dollars all over the world for all kinds of different things, that we're going to let this run dry. I have a hard time believing that, but it's our government, and we have to be prepared for it. One of the things that I see with this is why it's so important to diversify your portfolio. If you are looking for Social Security only as a source of your retirement income, this segment right here is exactly why it's not a good idea, right? One of the things I've always said is, Social Security should be a piece of the investment pie, but it shouldn't be all of the pie, right? You should definitely have another source of retirement income. What I would say is I would anticipate the retirement age being pushed back. And yeah, you may see an 80% payout with working until you're 70. That's kind of what I would see happening. Now, there are situations where some people, for whatever reason, maybe didn't have the resources, didn't properly plan, whatever the case may be, and that Social Security check is all they've got coming in. It happens, and that's unfortunate in certain situations. But now is the time where, if you are contemplating looking at retirement, how can you get that second source of income? Dave, I know this is a big subject for you, and why don't you go ahead and throw your input in here?
A large percentage of people are turning on their Social Security at age 62, which is the earliest date that you can do that. And the reasons that they give for it are very interesting. There's some people that will say, well, we're going to claim it while it's there. If it runs out of money, I want to get in line now and start collecting now. There are those people. There are other people who say, well, I look at my mom and my dad, and they both died in their early 70s, so longevity really isn't in my favor.
Sure.
So I'm going to turn it on so I can get some of that money back that that I've paid in over all these years of work. Then you've got people who are now starting to work longer, and they're working well into their 60s. I'm one of those people. You're one of them as well.
Sure.
So should we be taking a hard look at what we call here at America's Retirement Headquarters optimizing the Social Security and not turning it on till age 70, because you get the annual cost of living adjustments. Mm-hmm. You keep working, your benefit goes up each month that you delay touching it. And in some cases, and I've seen quite a few of these, where the difference between 62 and 70 can be as much as $800 a month. It's a lot of money. And remember that when you make a decision on Social Security, it's irrevocable. So once you turn it on, that's what you get. And so it's not, you're spot on when you say it's supposed to be a piece of the pie, but not the whole pie. That is why you need to talk with us, because we will put together a plan tailor-made to your individual circumstance that gives you options on when you should think about taking Social Security. And you know what? With a lot of people, and I will say this, it can be a year-to-year decision. Once Absolutely. They get to that full retirement age, which for me is 66 and 8 months, well, I'm going to get to that point, and then I suppose on a yearly basis I can take a look at whether or not, it's in my family's best interest to turn that benefit on.
Absolutely. We had on our show, it's been several shows ago, we had a gentleman that we do a lot of business with down in Cincinnati, Terry Eisert. And one of the things that Terry is a big proponent of is turning on Social Security as early as you can, and bankrolling the entire Social Security check. Now, and I talked with Terry between segments when he was on the radio that particular day, and I said, well, here's a problem. You can only make a certain amount of money if you turn it on before your full retirement age. And he says, yes, that is true. He says, but if you're going to work well past your full retirement age, then an ideal situation is to turn it on possibly and continue to work and put 100% bankroll that, invest that 100% of that Social Security, because then, like you said, the people that are turning it on at 62 because they're afraid it may not be there, you don't have to worry about that because you're going to be taking it, right? I agree with you. I originally said, I'm planning on working until I'm 70. I love what I do. It's fun. I'm not out in the elements beating my body up, and I'm going to put it off until 70. But the more I think about that, my full retirement age is 67. Well, at 67, I'm going to have a decision to make. Do I continue to work and bankroll that Social Security check, or do I just wait? Longevity comes into play. Mom's 86 years old. I took her to the doctor last week. She got a good, clean bill of health. She's doing really well. Dad passed away at 85. So, if I wait until 70 years old, I got a good 15 to, maybe 17, 18 years of collecting that higher rate at the end. So these are things that the guys here at America's Retirement Headquarters really, really help with. I can help talk you through a little bit of it, but I can only get you so far. That's when I pass you over to Dave, and then Dave can take over and say, hey, here, let's look at where are your investments fitting and how can we make this work for you so it comes out to be the best in your benefit.
That Social Security risk score software is something that the team at America's Retirement Headquarters actually has access to, and they can help run those numbers to show you what it would look like if there was a reduction in benefits down the line, whether that is in 33, 34, 35, if and when it does happen. Not only that, but how to perhaps find ways to supplement and replace that income. So if you have concerns about the solvency of Social Security, which is a valid concern to have, why not reach out to the team, have them run that software for you, and show you what it could look like and how to hopefully mitigate the sting and the effect of a possible reduction in benefits. Real easy. Just give them a call, 419-794-3030 to set up a time. Tell them you want to have that Social Security risk score run, or you can go to the website, schedule a time there as well at arhq.com. Now, with more seniors working past 65, perhaps to maximize their Social Security and things like that, the question that they're asking is, do I have to sign up for Medicare? And if not, then will I be penalized? So let's address this. Let's answer this. What happens to Medicare if somebody works past the age of 65?
I get that question a lot. And everybody out there knows I do a lot of events, these educational Medicare events. And I like to have fun. I like to smile. I like to make people laugh, and I know, Dave, you went to one of my events or two and kind of see how I do what I do. And one of the things I mentioned in there, and I usually apologize beforehand, but I ask for a show of hands, and I'll say, how many of you have had a friend, a neighbor, a relative, a coworker, or somebody tell you, you have to sign up for Medicare when you turn 65. I don't care if you're working or not, you have to sign up. People raise their hand, and I shake my head and said, now smile and acknowledge them because they mean well, and they really want to help you out, but then forget about everything they just told you. I said, because unless they are in the Medicare world like I am, or other advisors like myself, you really don't know all of the little nuances of how it works, okay? So I run into this a lot. Here's the short answer. It's very, very confusing, and it depends on a few key factors. So one of the factors is this. If someone is working for an employer that has 20 or more employees, now that does not mean 20 employees on a group health plan, but 20 or more employees at the company, and that company offers a group health benefit with a prescription drug plan, then you do not have to sign up for any benefits whatsoever. Part A, Part B, you don't have to sign up for anything. Well, a lot of people say, okay, well, won't I be penalized? Well, that's the big fear with everybody with Medicare is they've heard about how costly these penalties can be, and they are tagged onto you for the rest of your life if you do incur a penalty. The answer to that is actually no, you will not incur a penalty. Okay, there is a form, and this is one of the things that I do. I help all of my people that that come to me and talk to me about this. Is I'll actually help you fill out this form. You take it to your employer. It's a form called CMS L564. That is the employer form. The employer fills it out, and then we submit it to Medicare. That form shows you had qualifying health coverage from the time you turn 65 until you retire. So if you decide, Dave, to retire at 70, and like myself, you've got group health benefits, then you'll need that form to show you had benefits from 65 to 70 years old, and you will not incur a penalty. Okay, so that is one scenario. And another thing to keep in mind is if you have employer health coverage, your employer coverage will always be primary, and your Medicare benefits will be secondary. Okay? Now, another thing that I do a lot with is I'm a big fan of the HSAs, the health savings accounts. I've talked about those quite frequently. We'll address those in a second, how it's impacted also with Medicare. So the second part of this is if you work for an employer that has less than 20 employees, you should definitely sign up for Medicare. And here's why. Less than 20 employees, even though they offer group health benefits, Medicare becomes primary. So your health plan through your employer with 20 or less employees, your health plan through the employer becomes secondary. Well, Medicare has some out-of-pocket costs and expenses to you that your employer plan may not cover, so you could be exposed to higher out-of-pocket costs and expenses. So over 20, you don't have to sign up for anything. Under 20, you should sign up. Now, there's a couple of reasons why you might want to keep working and not sign up for Medicare. One of those reasons would be, let's say that your employer plan costs less than Medicare. Right now, the standard Medicare Part B cost is $174.70. That is for a standard income earner filing 103,000 individual or 206 for a couple. If you make less than that, then your cost for Part B is $174.70. So if your employer plan is less than that your portion, then don't sign up for Medicare. If you contribute to an HSA, do not sign up for Medicare. You can no longer contribute to an HSA, even if you're on an employer plan, even if you don't sign up for Part B. If you sign up for Part A, which is free, you can no longer contribute to an HSA. And your out-of-pocket costs may be lower with your employer plan, so that would be another reason why you may not want to sign up for Medicare if you're working. Now, on the flip side of that, well, what if I'm working? When should I sign up for Medicare? Well, if your employer plan costs more than Medicare, I actually had a client in last week. His employer plan was costing him $242, and Medicare was only going to cost him $174. So he was saving roughly $70 a month, and the benefits were far better on Medicare for him than his employer plan, which leads me to the next point. If you have high deductibles or high out-of-pocket costs, then you may want to keep working and drop your employer plan and sign up for Medicare. So think of it like this. If you go to your employer, and let's say that you're 65 years old, and you say to your employer, listen, I want to keep working, but I want to drop this health plan. What do you think your employer is going to do? he's going to do his happy dance, right? Because he no longer has to pay a high premium for a 65-year-old person working, but he still gets to take advantage of the knowledge and the work that you're putting in. He's going to be happy with that. So there will be no reason why you couldn't do that. So to recap, what happens to Medicare if you continue to work? Not a whole lot. It still sits there waiting for you. Whatever time you decide it's time to retire, then we can help you fill out that paperwork. We can help you enroll in Medicare. And we go through that whole process with you and explain exactly how it works. We make sure that you don't incur any penalties whatsoever. So if you feel that you want more information about working past 65 and how it's going to impact you with your Medicare, let me know. We'd be happy to go through your specific needs and help you out.
And again, this is a good time to point out this is one of the many topics that Scott and the team at America's Medicare Associates cover in their Medicare workshops. Got a good number of them coming up in September. If you've got the time, they'd love to have you out there. You can see the full list of them and go in RSVP and register for that by going to the events page at arhq.com. 4 years ago, if you asked people if they would work past age 62, about 55% would have said yes. Today, that number is down to 46%. You know, even with all the negative headlines about inflation, Social Security, recession, and savings, 75% of people are retired by age 65. So when you talk to people in their early 60s, what are the reasons they give you for wanting to leave the workforce? Is it job burnout or health problems, or is it actually a positive answer like, I finally got enough money and the math looks like it'll work out for me?
I would certainly think it's all of the above. But the ones that have saved well, I would say that's probably a lower number.
Yeah, I agree.
I have a couple clients that saved well enough to be able to retire in their late 50s. And it's an interesting thing when you start looking at when can you start touching your retirement savings, because the magic number for retirement withdrawals from a qualified plan is 59 and a half. So if a person wants to retire at 57 or 58, they probably should have a sizable amount of cash sitting in an old-fashioned bank account, certificate of deposit, or some kind of a liquid money fund, because they're going to be drawing on that, because they're going to need a delay starting the withdrawals from their personal retirement savings at 59 and a half. Then you factor in, when do they start Social Security? I would say that a lot of those folks, the early retirees, will probably want to turn on at 62. But I think the wild card that kind of factors into all of this, when people retire, they may just be tired or want to find something, want to just do something else. Well, how are they going to feel a year into retirement when they've been spending a lot of money? Maybe they've traveled a little bit, they've spent money, and they realize that, gee, I can't continue this torrid lifestyle for very long. I think I need to find a little part-time employment.
Sure.
Well, I think there's going to be a lot of that. And I'll give you one really quick story. I met a gentleman, this is several years ago, and he had been retired for a year when I met him. And I asked him, I said, what's it like being retired? He said, well, I was spending so much money, I got bored to tears, so I ended up getting a job. And I said, so what are you doing? And he was driving a school bus.
Sure.
And he was taking care of athletic fields at the local high school. And I said, well, how much do you make? And he told me, and then it hit me, he has forfeited his entire Social Security check.
Wow.
But don't get me wrong, he was happy to be engaged, and he was happy to have a purpose for his everyday living. But the problem is he did that job for a couple years, and then he said, no, I really want to be retired and doing nothing. Well, they reestablished the Social Security at the age 62 level. He didn't get any real major bump ups because he kept working. So early retirement is something you really have to consult with a financial advisor,
Sure.
because the math has to fit. Work in your favor on a multiple of fronts. And then that doesn't even discuss things like, what if your health
Sure.
changes and you're forced to retire? Or, what if you're fine but your spouse is ill and you have to take care of them? And I've heard of stories where now people are taking care of their older parents.
Sure. Absolutely.
They can't work and do all of that. So you really need to consult with us or a financial advisor if you're choosing, because these are challenging decisions to make, and you can't go in. You can't just say, I've had enough, I can't do this anymore. The math has to find a way to work in your favor there.
Well, those numbers that you started out with, Chris, 4 years ago, it was 55% said working past 62 wasn't going to work for them, right? And even with inflation, the gas prices and inflation and the way things are going today, people are still looking to retire. I run into a lot of people that come into me and, when I'm setting them up for Medicare and I talk about that, a lot of people are just tired. I run into that. They're just tired. They're frustrated. This goes back to COVID for me. I remember the employment practice laws. A lot of these companies that downsized never replaced the employees when they got back up and running at full capacity. So now you've got people that were doing their job are now doing 2 or 3 other people's jobs, and they're making the same amount of money they were making before. And to be quite honest with you, they're just really, really frustrated with that.
This conversation is by no means an attempt to dissuade you from retiring early. If you've got the means to do so, if the math works out, then by all means do that. Enjoy yourself. But you want to make sure that the math works out. And bear in mind, the earlier you retire, the longer you have to fund those years of retirement. So we say it so often here on the show, measure twice, cut once, and let the team at America's Retirement Headquarters help you out with that. All it takes to get started, giving a call, setting up a time, 419-794-3030. You can go onto the website, find out more about the events they've got coming up at arhq.com. And they're always available day and night on the website, arhq.com. Want to thank you so much for joining us here on America's Retirement Headquarters. It's home of the Retirement Guys formula and America's Medicare Associates. Hope you have a great week ahead of you. Gentlemen, appreciate the time. And as we wrap up here, I want to leave you with the final word.
Well, Dave, thanks again. I always enjoy doing a radio show with you. And thank you to all your listeners. Thank you, Chris. Thanks for listening at 1370, Toledo's #1 talk radio station. And have a great rest of your week.
America's Retirement Headquarters is located at 1700 Woodlands Drive in Maumee, Ohio. You can reach them by calling 419-794-3030 or online at americasretirementheadquarters.com. Exposure to ideas and financial vehicles discussed should not be considered investment advice or recommendation to buy or sell any financial vehicle. Investments can fluctuate and when redeemed may be worth more or less than when originally invested. Nolan Baker is not affiliated with nor endorsed by the Social Security Administration or any other government agency and does not provide legal or tax advice. Please consult with your attorney, accountant, and or tax advisor for advice concerning your particular circumstance. Annuity guarantees rely solely on the financial strength and claims paying ability of the issuing insurance company. By contacting us, you may be provided with information about insurance and annuity products offered through Nolan Baker, Ohio Insurance License Number 27787.